Hello everyone, welcome back to my series of Kingdom Hearts Theory videos. This is part 2 of my Kingdom Hearts 3 Theory video series. In part 1, I discussed the 13 stars in the final world of Kingdom Hearts 3 while introducing my thoughts on some of the key characters in the Kingdom Hearts universe and their role in Sora's journey during the Xehanort saga. I left off with the identification of 13-star dialogues in the final world of Kingdom Hearts 3, which I will cover in this video. But before that, let me review a theory I presented in my last video with some additional thoughts. This theory was about the 3 world lines with respective data worlds, the relation between the Master of Masters, Sora, and Vanitas, and the black box's contents. My starting point was the story Master of Masters told Luxord in regards to his childhood. There is so much we don't know about the Master of Masters, but I try to theorize. I will start here, then discuss the 13-star dialogues, and end with what I hope to see, or rather who I hope to see, in Kingdom Hearts Dark Roads. So, let's begin. In the beginning, Kingdom Hearts brought light to the worlds, but people fought over it, breaking its counterpart, the Keyblade, into 20 pieces, 13 dark and 7 light. Darkness of people could manifest as humanoid heartless or nobodies, as we see with Ansem's Secret of Darkness and Xehanort's Nobody Xemnas. Sora and 6 others, one possibly being a Princess of Light, fought in the original Keyblade War before Kingdom Hearts Key as Guardians of Light. Torn Heart from Body, Master of Masters, Vanitas, and Lich were created from Sora. Nobodies could possibly also be created from his 6 other comrades. The Nobody Master of Masters gained a heart of his own, and he creates a Master Control Program, or the Data World, the Ark, in Daybreak Town. He tasks his apprentice Luxord with seeing future events using the Gazing Eye Keyblade. Next time, the true Sora and 6 comrades still fought at the Keyblade Graveyard while fighting Master Xehanort. Hearts are collected by Lich and data stored in the black box, only accessed through darkness, which takes the form as Vanitas. This gives rise to the Data Sora, Data Riku, are all these data characters essentially, which are their true forms. Alternatively, Sora and others could be programs Master gave Data Hearts to, and their real hearts are in the black box. As a result of the Master of Masters giving Luxord his Keyblade that contains that Gazing Eye, the Book of Prophecies was written and copies were made, since Luxord was able to see the events through darkness prevailing and light expiring. However, the next time around, the Master of Master replaces his apprentice's hearts with the Nobody hearts that formed, which are connected to the 7 original hearts, and then eventually sends all of their hearts to the future using the Ark. So this would be at the end of Kingdom Hearts Key, to right after light finally prevails in Kingdom Hearts 3, in which we see most of the Lost Masters returned and are summoned to the Keyblade Graveyard by Luxord. The original hearts are given to Sora, Riku, Kairi, Terra, Ventus, Aqua, and Braig. Luxord retained his Nobody heart until he merged with Braig and became recompleted essentially. Since Luxord cast away his body, he ends up taking the form upon recompletion as Braig. If Master of Masters and the apprentices class with Sora and others to recomplete themselves, they will regain their Nobody and or original form because they hold their hearts. 6 other lights are provided by Ephraim, Brain Skull, Marluxia, Lexi, and Stelixia. Their hearts are also stolen and placed in the black box. Bodies inhabited by the hearts of Yozora and his comrades, or some like Marluxia and Lexi, would become one of Xehanort's darknesses. In conclusion, Sora and the others' true hearts are in the black box, while the Sora we know and the others are carrying around hearts from the wielders of Master of Masters' childhood times, before the events of Kingdom Hearts Key. The Master of Masters may seek to summon Kingdom Hearts in the Data World through Yozora's world to make a perfect real world. He needs 7 to clash with 13, these 7 being him and his apprentices, and the 13 being 13 Data Hearts that he collected, and with this clash he was able to summon Kingdom Hearts. He may be planning to take over Sora's world as well, since this is where he and his apprentices return to. Maybe they needed to remove Sora to do so, since he seems to be the key to make all of this possible. So the goal, I believe, is that in terms of Sora prevailing over the Master Masters, is that Sora and Riku have to free the lights of the past to restore their original forms, so they can defeat the Master Masters and possibly the other Lost Masters too. With this, Sora and Riku and the rest of them that do hold their hearts, they can regain their original hearts from that black box, and this can be represented by this new chess game that we're seeing Ericus and Xehanort play, which is just another clash between light and dark. Some additional ideas or thoughts that I had as going through this theory is that there seems to be specific changes that the Master Masters probably orchestrated to have light prevail in Sora's world. The first change I see is Yen Sid swaying Mickey to become more than just a sorcerer, but also a Keyblade wielder. And he would provide the seventh light guardian since Bray or Lushu became a darkness. Sora had to join hearts with Ven so that when Sora released Kairi's heart in Kingdom 1, they would produce Nominating Roxas, which provides more light. Also, interestingly mentioned in Kingdom Hearts 1, there is this Keyblade of the people's hearts that were formed from the 6 or 7 pure hearts, or the princesses of heart essentially. And it is said that it releases the darkness within people's hearts, and that this Keyblade can summon the final keyhole, or I guess the 7 lights, I should say, will summon the final keyhole to open Kingdom Hearts. So this is also an interesting idea that this Keyblade may come into play later in terms of Sora facing his darkness again. But what I do believe is that when Sora did use the Keyblade on his own heart, is that maybe he released Vanitas at this time. And this also was around the same time that when Ansem Seeker Darkness possessed Riku and attacked Maleficent with the said Keyblade. This is the time that Sora was able to defeat Maleficent, but as a result, when she was bodiless, she was able to travel back in time and found her way to this day to Daybreak Town we're introduced in Kingdom Hearts Union Cross. And so I think from this single event also is what sent Vanitas in the form of darkness back to this point in time in Kingdom Hearts Union Cross, in which they both meet in this day to Daybreak Town. And their presence results in the encouragement of the five to use the Ark to leave the day to Daybreak Town and travel to the future. Upon traveling to the future, I think Ephemer completed Ventus's heart so that he may train with Terra and Aqua, providing 3 more lights, although Terra would fall to darkness and be possessed by Master Xehanort. Ventus was led to defeat or face Vanitas, and Terra did produce the Lingering Will, which we saw in Kingdom Hearts 3 as an ally that helped light prevail. We still technically don't know what happened to Brain, but I would think Brain became Ericus and Xehanort's master. Yensid's too, because I believe he trained with them as well. So Yensid and Ericus became 2 hidden lights, and Xehanort became this ultimate darkness. And we do see that Yensid and Ericus both help light prevail in the ending of Kingdom Hearts 3. As for Scald, as previously stated, it can be safely assumed that she is Subject X, and while time in captivity, she befriended Axel and Sykes, or Lee and Issa, and this encouraged them to become apprentices of Ansem the Wise, in which Sykes or Issa would become a darkness and Lee or Axel would become a light. As we know, Marluxia and Larxene would become nobodies, and they would contribute to the dark side. Strelitzia was slain, so Brain could take her place in Kingdom Hearts Cross, going into Union Cross. We know Ava is missing. We're not entirely sure where she is. She may have a different role, or a role that's not as clear to us, or maybe it is, I just missed it. But she probably does have a connection to Kairi. And last but not least, I think overall the main goal is to have Sora to be encouraged to use the power of waking but he also began to abuse it to get Kyrie back, which is what the Master of Masters wanted him to do. Because this would force Sora to disappear from his world and end up in Yuzora's world. This pretty much sums up most of my additional thoughts, connecting back to my theories. So in the rest of this video, I'll reveal the probable identities of the 13 stars in the final world. Naminé is a given. The other 12 would be Roxas, Terra, and Ericus, who share hearts, so they count as one. Sykes, Vexen, Marluxia, Luxord and Demyx, Luxord, Ephemer, Scald, Brain, and Strelitzia. The star with the voice I identify as Scald. The star tells Sora that they took away her name and everything about her. I believe she is referring to Xehanort and the rest of the apprentices who called her Subject X as she arrived to Radiant Garden with amnesia. One of the prices she had to pay to travel to the future, or a new timeline. But as far as her heart ending up in the final world, somebody did this to her. Probably Braig, or as we know, Luxu, since she mentioned a man with an eye patch taking her from her prison. In any case, it makes me believe someone got to her when Ansem demanded the release of the test subjects and possibly changed her form as well. To this, she mentions how she waits for a friend who has been changed beyond recognition, his heart replaced by another's, and he would be distressed by her absence if he were to regain his original form. We learn the star is referring to Yuzora, and I believe Yuzora replaced Ephemer's heart. Then he would indeed be distressed if he couldn't find Scald, whose heart was replaced with the girl from Yuzora's world. Scald, I think, is Subject X because in the secret report she says she remembers 4 friends and a key. Strelitzia didn't meet the other Union leaders, or really have any close friends to my knowledge, and Ava I would think would include Luxord, so 5 friends, not 4. The Lost Masters don't seem as distressed by Alva's absence as she still has her identity. And Laurium would be the main one distressed by Strelitzia's absence being her brother, but since the star mentioned friend, she doesn't fit this either. So Scald is Subject X and a nameless star. Lastly, the girl is reminiscent of Lunafreya from Final Fantasy XV, who is very serious, diligent, and has a resolved purpose trait. Traits that Brain mentions Scald has. The next star has emphasis on carrying burden, pain, responsibility, and crying that he needs to find. This pointed me to Ephemer, who has expressed to the player the burden he carries from the past, being a Union leader and the pain of the Keyblade War caused to those who survived. He has a memory of a crying that warmed his heart. Could his crying be Scald's from her captivity in Radiant Garden? The secret reports do mention muffled wails coming from the castle at night. Could he feel it, hear it, having a strong connection to Scald, or maybe Scald became very sad over the reality they were facing, and he comforted her in the past. He could be hearing the cries of many he wants to quell, a burden he always carries in his heart. This burden may carry over to his role as Yuzora. So the 3rd and 4th star I kept flip-flopping between Brain and Ericus and Terra sharing a heart. The 3rd star seems to be a mentor who doesn't realize until later on that his pupil wanted more than knowledge but to build upon a strong connection with him. I'm just putting this idea out there that if Brain is the one who ended up inheriting the Master's Keyblade and had pupils of his own, the many techniques or skills Ericus inherited is through the knowledge stemming from Brain. The star also says, "Here we are now, but now since we've parted," which makes me think he is referring to Luxord since his heart remains here, and he returned to his nobody form in Sora's timeline, that is. However, this star's dialogue mainly reminded me of Ericus since he is currently inside Terra's heart. His pupil Terra was ready to take the Mark of Mastery exam, so he had nothing left to teach him, although Terra did have his share of troubles with the darkness after Master Xehanort meddled during the examination. And then parting was due to Master Xehanort calling on Terra Xehanort to fight as one of the 13 darknesses. Since Ericus is a confirmed master, we know his pupil. I'll give this quote to him. The 4th star seems to be a reflective person looking back on their lifetime with a friend or friends. Again, this could apply to either Ericus, who is referring to Xehanort, or Brain, who is referring to the other 4. Both went on adventures with comrades that wasn't so smooth, but I would like to think this dialogue came from Brain because I'm sure they experienced much. And if Brain really put his heart and soul into writing the future, I would believe he has no regrets. At first, but now, seeing how things are playing out, he may be concerned. Also, I would like to touch on the proposed idea I recently came across saying that the 5 that went to the future did not include Brain. He stayed behind and continued the Keyblade line from there. However, when Sora reviews the history of Daybreak Town becoming Sky Asylum, it would seem to have been completely destroyed and then rebuilt much later, so I don't think Brain would have the choice to stay behind. And Lucy says the 5 were sent to another world line. If Sterlichia is restored, then maybe Brain was left behind, but I don't think that's the case. We'll see. As for the next 2 stars, their stories are unlike the others in which they seem to be giving us background stories, which would fit with Luxord and Demyx since we still don't know much about their old lives. The first one's identity came to me right away. The longest dialogue of the stars, so it seems to be someone that needs to be emphasized. Naturally, it went to Luxord. He talks about service, artwork, distress, and reciprocating feelings of loss as he is now separated from his longtime master. I'm not sure if passed on before by master is meaning that he regretted dying for his master, or that he regretted leaving his master after years of service, or if he passed on to a new life, in which this would make sense since Luxord probably left Zora's world for Sora's world. His master is probably Zora, and this is hinted at within the dialogue when he uses the word command. As we know, Zora's driver calls him commander. They are connected through feelings of distress, which again, if Luxord's name is Dulor, meaning pain, grief, suffering, distress, then this dialogue points to Luxord as the speaker. And remember, on the Verum Rex box art, it says that they chose to fight while feeling the pain at their hearts, again tying Luxord to Zora's world. Lastly, we can sense Luxord is on a mission, and is probably grieving for his master's circumstances, which drives him, pun intended, to seek out the one who can reclaim the hearts. Also, I see Luxord being a painter of some sort. It is not an easy task to design decks of cards. A thought that popped in my head was that maybe he was the one who painted the portrait of Xehanort, as we saw in Anselm's study during Kingdom Hearts 2. For the next star, now this quote was chosen for Demyx because the remaining quotes fit the other characters better, and it's just so different than the rest. Again, we don't know Demyx's backstory, but it might involve a lost father. If Demyx is in fact the Aegis of Zora's world and is connected to the Gigas, it would be interesting if his father was the creator and he carried on his research. As mentioned in part 1, Demyx may be an artist in a different way, not a guitarist or a scientist, but an engineer, a man who can program and fine-tune machines. Something went awry and his father disappeared. Now Demyx is looking for him. Maybe his father is responsible for replacing the hearts of Ephemer's Skull and Brain, Demyx, and Luxord using data. The possibilities are endless. The light that this star is referring to in its dialogue may be connected to the girl of Zora's world, aka Skald. And also the box art of Verum Rex mentions in the light of the warhead of the night sky. So this also could provide a connection to this character who is drawn to the light, and the warhead in the night sky may be his father piloting the ultimate Gigas. Also, I would like to point out that the girl is like Lunafea from Final Fantasy 15. She has a protective brother, and Zora's world may be Aegis and the girl's siblings, and their father plays an important role in the state of the world. Both are brunettes. Never know. The next couple stars connected to the other organization members who returned to Nobodies, also to Roxas, Naminé, and Sterlitzia. This quote here fits Stark's scene the best, as we know she was just along for the ride with Marluxia. In a newly released character story, Darkseid talks about the heart, feelings like love and hate, and she says they are all the same, but deep down in her heart it seems she has strong feelings for Marluxia. She also mentions that she doesn't like being a human again because her emotions are overwhelming and can cause her pain and worry. In closing, she said, "Once my heart came back, what was precious to my heart returned to me as well, but I don't love or hate those things. I won't tell anyone about them. After all, I hate loose-lipped people. So, it's a precious little secret just for me, my little secret. The next quote belongs to Marluxia. In his dialogue following his defeat by Sora, the first word he literally says is "oh," and that now it all comes back to me, meaning his memories, and that his heart is remembering how to feel. The sliver of memory that keeps him here is the memory of his dear sister Strelitzia. He is at the cusp of reclaiming his identity, his purpose for being. I think this is what led many to think the nameless star was Strelitzia, since the girl mentioned purpose and reclaiming one's original form. And yes, he would be distressed by her absence, but again, the star said friend and not brother, and no one took away her name. I feel Strelitzia is here in the final world, but her mind is elsewhere. Her heart is feeling lonely and forgotten. Strelitzia eventually decided to join the Dandelions, but she was usually only seen with either Laurium or her Chirithy. She watched others, especially the player, from afar. When she was struck down, we see visions of her alone. Now she wonders if she even mattered. Others keep joining the Dandelions. The 5 carried on without her. Comrades continued their mission. Only her brother and friend noticed her absence. She figures her feelings of hesitation to join the Dandelions were warranted. This was not my place. Maybe it never was. The next star went to Sykes. The first line he opens with is referring to Larxine's ideas. Thereafter, he is referring to his relationship with Axel during their time in the organization. If you watch cutscenes from 358 days divided by 2, you'll notice Sykes always instigating a fight with Axel. He frequently uses the word laughable too. Of course, they were friends in the past, so naturally he finds a reason to spend time with him. And even back then, Issa teased Lee. Sykes is lonely because Axel went off and made new friends, Roxas and Xion. I will note here that Issa and Lee were forming a friendship with Subject X, or Scold as we know, which became their main reason to becoming one of Ansem's apprentices and joining the organization with the hopes of finding her. The next star took some time for me to figure out, as I hadn't played Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories in a while, but the scene with the fight between Vexen and Riku stuck out to me. During this battle with Riku, Vexen was excited and thoroughly enjoyed fighting him. He provided data he can use for his replica project. Vexen is responsible for creating replicas, recreating a person from their memories, and in turn, his Riku replica was searching for ways to complete a heart from data, hinting at the fates of Scald, Ephemer, Brain, Demyx, and Luxord, I believe. The last 2 stars were straightforward. Naminé is confirmed as Sora had a full conversation with her, and the last star is Roxas, since at the time he hadn't returned to Sora's world yet. And of course he is reminiscing about his time with Xion, who returned to Sora's world as one of the 13 Darkness, which is why he says, so why is it just me here now? And thus this concludes my theory on the 13 stars in the final world of Kingdom Hearts 3. Before I sign off, I would like to talk about Kingdom Hearts Dark Road. As of now, we know it will focus on why Xehanort became a Seeker of Darkness. A while ago, artwork was released showing a young Xehanort and Ericus, what it looks to be 4 other blurry figures. Just thinking about some of the older characters in the game, I hope to see a young Ansem the Wise. That may be the person to the right of Xehanort. I wonder if he met Xehanort before and was suspicious of Terra Xehanort from the beginning. This is probably why Ansem helped him regain his memories. Also, I think one of these figures would probably be Yen Sin, since he said he trained with Ericus and Xehanort as well. I do like the theory that Kairi's grandma may return. Maybe she also trained with them, and maybe she was even an old Princess of Light before Kairi. And the last one may be their master, which again I hope is Brain. If not Ephemer, maybe even Avo would be a nice twist, but I think at this point I would hope it'd be Brain if this is the case. But at any rate, we'll learn soon enough. So that's pretty much my thoughts so far on expanding more of my Kingdom Hearts theories in terms of whose heart is where, who holds what heart, what these dialogues, who these stars are, and what these dialogues are referring to. So this pretty much wraps up this two-part theory series about 13 stars and the final world of Kingdom Hearts 3. Let me know your thoughts, like, comment, share, and subscribe. Take care.